We have this lecture where we actually discuss about bone marrow. And under the bone marrow, we talk about the structure and talk about what the composition of bone marrow, and also talk about what um, structure, composition, and basically what the functions of what bone marrow. Okay, so that's it. We'll quickly move. I'm just trying to send one message to some of my guys. All right. So this is a bone marrow, and almost everybody here might have one time in their life eaten bone marrow. Okay, basically bone marrow is that what sweet composition of bone and all the stuff, right? But here we are not here to talk about meat. We are here to actually talk about what education. So discussing bone marrow, we say that bone marrow is a rich mixture of developing stem cells, progenitors, and some matured blood cells. Okay, so you see this is a bone marrow. We have different types of bone marrow, just so you know. We have the red bone marrow, we have the mixed marrow, we have the yellow marrow. Okay, so there are also fat cells and other cells that provide nutrition and an architectural framework upon which blood forming elements arrange themselves and actually develop. Okay, so now the weight of a bone marrow of a normal adult is about what 1,600 to 3,700 grams, and it contains about what 1 billion hematopoietic cells. Okay, that's approximately what 18 times 10 to raise to the power 9 cells per kilogram. Okay, so now nourishment of this large mass of cells comes from the blood itself. Arteries pierce the outer walls of the bones, they enter the marrow, and they divide into fine branches, which ultimately coalesce into larger venous sacs, that's sinusoids, through which blood flows sluggishly. Okay, so now in the surrounding hematopoietic tissue, newly formed blood cells enter the general circulation by penetrating the walls of the sinusoids. Okay, now in the adults, the bone marrow produces all kinds of red cells. Okay, and 60 to 70% of white cells, that's granulocyte, and all of the platelets. All right, so now the lymphatic tissues, particularly the thymus, the spleen, and the lymph nodes, produce the lymphocyte that's comprising about 20 to 30% of the white cells. Okay, so now the reticular endothelial cell tissues of the spleen, liver, and lymph nodes, and other organs produce the monocytes. That's about what 4 to 8% of what white cells. Okay, so like 4 to 8% of white cells are produced by the reticular endothelial tissues. All right, so this is the composition of bone marrow, but we always discuss bone marrow because bone marrow actually what produces the most of all these blood cells. Now platelets are actually what fragments from the cytoplasm of giant cells known as the megakaryocytes. Okay, and these megakaryocytes are also found in the bone marrow. Now, both the red and white cells arise through a series of complex transformation from primitive stem cells, which have the ability to form any of the precursor of a blood cell. Okay, so now the precursor cells are committed stem cells that have developed to a stage where they are destined to become what a particular type of what new blood cells. So now by dividing and differentiating, precursor cells gives rise to four major blood cell lineages. That's what red cell, phagocytic cells, megakaryocytes, and lymphocyte. Cells of the marrow are under complex controls that regulate their formation and adjust their production to the changing demands of the body. Okay, so that's it about the bone marrow, basically the definition, component of bone marrow, and the functions. All right, function is basically production of what blood cells. So that's it, guys. See you guys pretty soon.